A few weeks ago, I took some cuttings from my fiddle fig tree and my rubber plant, and I took those cuttings, put them in water so that they would root. Today, I want to take you through the process of taking these cuttings and potting them in soil. Here's an example of what we're going for. Here's one of my new cuttings that I'll be potting today. And here's one that I did from the same plant about 14 months ago. And here's the same thing with a fiddle fig. Took this cutting not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and we'll be potting it. And this one is about 14 months old after being potted. So this is about how much growth you should expect over the next year or so. So how do I know when my cuttings are ready to be put in soil? I wait until the roots are sufficiently long that they can help hold the plant in place. That usually comes out to be anywhere from about a ½ inch to 2 inches long. You can see from these examples here, we've got about 2 inches, almost 2.5 inches or so. This is something that I think would root really well. I can put it in soil and those roots can help provide some stability and begin filling out the pot. So how do I choose the right pot size for these cuttings? Today I'm going to pot them in about 4-inch plastic pots. Eventually, you'll pot up to a much larger size, but in the very beginning, you want to stick with something a little bit more manageable. You want to make sure that it's something that is small enough that it's not going to require so much water that these new roots will sit in water and rot, but also big enough that allows it to grow and have space to be able to fill it out. As it grows and matures later on, you'll begin to pot it up to a much larger size. So start off with something a little bit smaller. I have my soil prepared here. This is cocoa coir, vermiculite, and perlite, a mix that I made that just helps things be light and fluffy. I'm squeezing it. There's not water coming out of it. That's a good sign. It means it's not waterlogged, but it certainly is damp. So I'll begin by taking each one of these pots, filling them about 1/3 of the way full in preparation for these cuttings. What you want to do is tap it down a little bit. Make sure not to compact it though. I have these 2 drywall bins here that I think are extremely helpful. Usually have one that's full of the soil. The other one I can use as kind of a potting sink to be able to catch the messes. Okay, so I've got 8 pots here. Each one is about 1/3 of the way full. Okay, I'll start here with some of these. This is the rubber plant. You can see the roots here and kind of where it's discolored from where it's been in the water. I'm planning on potting it up to about right there, so I want to stick it in and see kind of what things will look like. So I'll probably need to put it in about there. I want to make sure that I keep the soil a little bit lower than the lip of this pot so that I can water it just fine. So I'm going to stick this in there just like that. Then slowly, I'm going to take some soil, place it around the sides. As I'm doing so, I'll tap it down just lightly. I don't want to compress it, don't want to hurt or break any of those roots, but I do want to make sure that I get rid of any air pockets that would be in there. So now I've got this one, there's about, 3/4 of an inch there of this plant in there. Want to make sure that it is sufficiently firm, but that I'm not overly compressing it. Should be able to pull it up and down and it doesn't pull out, but I don't want to pull too hard either. So this next one I'm going to do in much the same way. We can see this was the growing tip of the plant before, so it's already started to produce a new leaf. I want to pot this up as soon as possible to be able to give it the nutrients, to be able to support that new leaf. So again, I'll be taking this one, sticking it down in the pot until it touches the soil. Then I'll slowly fill the soil in around it, being careful not to harm the roots. Also tamp it down a little bit so there are not too many air pockets in there. So here is an example of what that looks like before I will put the soil in there. So just hold it there. And then again, as I did with the last one, slowly fill in around it. Just tamp down lightly with your fingers. That'll help get rid of some of the air pockets. Again, this is a nice light and fluffy soil. So it should be a good home for these plants that do not like to sit in water. They like to have it well drained. So here we go. Here's an example here. Again, I should be able to tug on it lightly and there should be no movement. But again, I don't want to pull it out of there. It's certainly not established. So here's another example. Okay, let's show this again with another one of these plants. This again is the rubber plant. You can see nice healthy roots, nice and long. Going to stick it in the pot, stick it down to where the soil is. The roots just lay nice and flat there on the soil. And I'm going to go ahead and take some soil and tamp it around the outside, nice and lightly, not too firmly. Make sure that I'm careful with the roots, but I also get rid of any of the air pockets. Just turn it around, twist it, tamp it down. Add enough soil so that at least with these pots, they have about 3/4 of an inch or so that as we add water, it doesn't overflow. Again, I should be able to pick it up lightly and the plant not come out. That means that there are some roots that are established there to be able to, not established, but there are some roots there that can hold on to the soil that can keep the plant in there. Try to make sure that the plant is vertical, straight up on all the sides, and you'll be set. We have our last rubber plant here. This one probably has fewer roots than the rest, but I still think that's okay. It's got that long one that sticks out the side, but otherwise these ones are short. So I'll stick it in the pot here at the bottom. Make sure that I have the roots not touching on the outside. I take some of the soil, I'm going to place it around the outside, tamp it in around it slightly. Get rid of the air pockets. Make sure that I'm careful with the roots, but also make sure it's firmly in place. Want to leave 3/4 of an inch or so of headroom on the top so that I can water these effectively without it spilling over. That's what it looks like. I can pull on it and it's not going to pull out easily. It's held there nice and tight. We are moving on to the fiddle fig leaves over here. So I'll show you the same process with these plants. You can see the roots there. I'll just choose one of them. So here's this plant. You can see some roots here. This one is a bit taller than the rubber plant that we did before, but it'll be a very similar process. I'll take it, stick it here in the pot, make sure that I fill around it with soil firmly, but not too hard. Make sure that it's sticking straight up. This will help it get ready to look for nutrients and start growing. This one I might be a little more forceful keeping it in place because it is a heavier plant. But again, the roots aren't incredibly fragile, but still exercise caution as you pot this up. So here is the plant. It does have a little wiggle back and forth, but if I pull it up, it's not coming out or moving at all. It's relatively vertical as we twist it around. Here is the next fiddle fig cutting. This one, the roots aren't as established. I'm still going to go ahead and pot them, but I would technically like this one to be a little bit longer. That one looks pretty good, but those ones could use a little bit more length to be able to help hold the plant in the soil. This one curves a little bit, and so I'll just do my best to make sure that the overall top of this plant is going vertically so that as it continues to grow in the future, it can grow straight up. Even if that means that the stem down at the bottom is slightly curved. Okay. Continue to tap around the outside. Make sure, again, that there are no air pockets. Also, as we water it in a little bit later, that'll help get rid of some of those air pockets. But make sure it's firmly in there so that it doesn't move. As I pull up here, it's not coming out. It should be kept in there really well. Okay, and here are the last two fiddle fig. This one's got a pretty healthy root system. See, it's got some coming out of most sides. Here is my pot, about a third full. Stick this here in the bottom. I'll turn it this way so you can see it a little bit better. Go ahead and fill in the outsides with soil. I'll tap around to make sure we get rid of any of the air pockets. Make sure that the plant is secured in place. I'm not pushing extremely hard, but you can tamp it down. The roots aren't going to be extremely fragile, especially here at the top as you're pushing and compressing the top layer down. Here we go. Here's that plant. Let's straighten it up a little bit. Push it over this way. If I pull on it again, it's not budging or coming out. Let's add a little bit more soil on this side because it has a tendency to lean this way. There we go. So there we go. That one is set. And here is our last fiddle fig. Here we go. This one was one of the growing tips of the plant. You can see right there. So like the others, place this down at the bottom of the pot. Fill in some soil around the outside. Gently, especially at the bottom, tamp down the soil. Make sure that it stands straight up. Turn it around so you can see all angles. Make sure that it stands straight up. And that there is not going anywhere. You can pull on it and it's not coming up. And there we go. Now it's time to water these in. Here are the fiddle figs. After I've potted them, I'm going to go ahead next and water them in. So the goal of watering them in is to be able to help get rid of some of the air pockets that may still exist in the pots. You want to help settle the soil down around the roots. And then of course, as the plant continues to grow and look for nutrients, it can get that eventually from the soil. However, the purpose of the soil at the beginning isn't necessarily to give nutrition to the plant, but it provides some structure and some strength as the plants start to establish their root system and prepare to grow. So I'll take just a nice little shower stream from a hose. Just fill this in a little bit. You should see that drain. Fill this in just a little bit. You should see that drain really well. See that? Here's another example here. I'll go ahead and spray it. And see, get some water in there, but it'll drain quite quickly. So next I'll go ahead and water this plant. And you can see, should drain quite well. Let me lift it up. There we go. And here's the last one here and back. I'll go ahead and water it, fill it up, and let it drain out. There we go. You can see it draining out at the bottom there. That's helping to get rid of some of those air pockets. So here's an example of how these look. So I'll go ahead and leave them here for just a minute or two to make sure that the soil gets fully saturated. Then I'll move them over, and then I will prepare for the rubber plants. We're now going to water in the rubber plants. So for each of these, I'll just go ahead and water around the base, fill up the pot. You see they've already kind of drained. Just make sure they're all saturated. This is pretty well draining soil, so I don't have any concerns about the water just sitting there in there, especially as I take them out of this tub. I'm going to take all of these plants. I will put them in a window that has indirect sunlight for a little while, and maybe after about a week or two, I can start to transition them to a window that has some more direct sunlight. But this is how those look. So here is the process of potting up those cuttings, as you can see here. And in about a year, they will look like these ones back here.